exceptional student athletes are born, where records are broken, where great plays are made, where school colors ignite passion, where champions prevail, where tradition is celebrated. Ontario University Athletics.
This season, catch the best in Atlantic University sport excitement at home or on the
U-Sports on CBC, presented by Les Championnats U-Sport, une présentation de Fox 40, title partner of the U-Sports Coach of the Year Awards, fier partenaire des prix des entraîneurs de l'année U-Sport, Veraburn Medical Supply, exclusive sports medicine and medical supply partner of U-Sports, le partenaire exclusif de U-Sport en matière de médecine sportive et des fournitures médicales. Nike Team, exclusive performance apparel provider, just do it, fier partenaire de U-Sport, faites-le. Baron, exclusive championship rings and recognition jewelry provider to U-Sports, le fournisseur officiel des bagues et bijoux commémoratifs des championnats U-Sport. Sport Canada, funding partners of U-Sports. Sport Canada, partenaire financier de U-Sport.
Hi everybody, we are back at the 2022 U-Sports Cross Country Championship here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. We're going to move to the women's race, but just before, slight update on the men's side of things. We have an amendment in the results. So Tyler Dawsey of UBC, who crossed the line in 7th, wasn't in the initial results, and so that changes up things a little bit. The UBC Thunderbirds, in fact, finished 4th with 131 points, 1 point behind the Queen's Gales in 3rd. And also we should mention, just as we thought before we left you about 20 minutes ago, the McMaster Marauders took the gold medal here, 37 points in a dominating fashion. Laval Rouge et Or en deuxième position chez les hommes avec 115 points, and the Queen's Gales in 3rd place with 130. UBC 4th, 131. Guelph 5th, 170 points, and the hosts, co-host with St. Mary's Dalhousie Tigers in 6th with 189. We are now queuing to the women's race. Angus, what are we going to see here?
I think similar to what we've seen over the last couple of years, it'll likely be some Laval dominance. Jessie Lacourse, one of the favorites in today's race, returning for another year, as well as they just have a strong team all around. Laval does. Their main challenger will probably be the Guelph Griffins. But at this point, it's hard to say. As we saw in that last race, 2 through 15 or 2 through 10 can be really tough to determine, and you've got a ton of surprises in the individual places as well.
Absolutely. Donc, nous allons regarder pour le Rouge et Or de Laval, particulièrement pour Jessie Lacourse. Sur la ligne de départ, on la voyait juste tantôt, elle et sa coéquipière Catherine Beauchemin, deux des meilleures coureuses. Et aussi Laval, Rouge et Or, ils sont champions en titre, donc j'imagine qu'ils vont avoir un titre à défendre. On voit Jessie Lacourse et Catherine Beauchemin, les deux premières, juste à la droite de votre écran. On the right of your screen, Catherine Beauchemin leading Jessie Lacourse for Université Laval. They are the defending champions, so we'll be looking at those red and white singlets. As they're off here, 20 seconds into the race, and down the hill, and oh, Angus, we were just mentioning, it's going to be tougher for the women because now the course is torn up, and we just see these puddles of water forming every time they step down on this golf course.
Yeah, and the rain's coming down even harder than it was in the men's race, and the wind has picked up a bit too, so not only are they having to run on a race course that's a bit more trodden, but they also have, they've got the elements to deal with even more so than the men did.
And like you mentioned, Angus, it's going to be a battle between the perennial and the recent. University of Guelph have dominated the U-Sports circuit since its existence, since it was called CIS and CIAU. The women have 13 titles, the Guelph women, since the start of this conference, the start of this league, really, and Laval being the defending champs, and likely we'll see a battle between the OUA team and the Quebec team as Catherine Beauchemin of Laval leads. Donc, nous voyons Catherine Beauchemin déjà dans l'avance, la coureuse de l'Université Laval. Championne des Jeux du Canada cette année aux 1500 mètres et aux 3000 mètres steeplechase. Une coureuse de 58 secondes sur 400 mètres, donc une coureuse assez polyvalente. L'an dernier, elle a fini 3e au championnat de cross-country U-Sport. Elle a gagné la médaille de bronze. Donc, toujours une concurrente qui se rapproche de l'avant. Elle et sa coéquipière Jessie Lacourse. Donc, we're looking at Catherine Beauchemin and Jessie Lacourse to be dominating this race. For our English speakers, funny enough, Lacourse translates to the race. So, to be aptly named Jessie.
Yeah, and she's looking to, not only are they looking to defend the team title with Laval, but they're also, Jessie will be looking to be the defending XC champion as well. And Beauchemin, the returning bronze medalist. So we'll see if both of them can get back on the podium today and maybe add another third Laval teammate up there in the mix.
Of course, they'll face some challenges from familiar faces in this league. Sadie Jane Hickson of Guelph is back for her 6th academic year and her 5th and final year in the circuit. The student athlete, biomedical sciences student from Oakwood, Ontario, has great range, right? She's won a 2:05 800 meters in her time and is also the defending champion in the 1,000 meters earlier on this year at the U Sports Track and Field Championship in St. John. So we know that Hickson has a whole lot of speed. So if she's there near the end, watch out for her kick.
Well, and you always have to respect the champion coming out of the OUA. So I'm sure Lacourse and Beauchemin have been studying up to make sure they take care of her today, because they don't see each other much during the regular season or preseason, whatever you want to call it. But it all comes down to the big day, and we'll see who's got the goods.
And even less of a known quantity for these Central Canadian athletes are a pair of athletes from British Columbia. Kiana Gibson is one of the top contenders. She used to compete for Guelph, and so I guess they do have some familiarity with her there, but now she's at UBC. She's a master's student in nutrition and dietetics, has a 1500 PB of 4:26, so also a fast athlete, 9:31 for 3K, and last year was 4th at this very championship. So Gibson is no stranger to these championships, and even less is Joanna Brown from UBC Okanagan. She was 6th last year, first team All-Star, but Brown has been around the circuit, has been an endurance athlete, let's say, for a really long time. She's an Ottawa-born athlete who ran for 3 years with the University of Guelph from 2011 to 2013, so last decade, and during that time, her team was dominant. Squad won 3 straight national championships, Brown herself earning all-Canadian honors in each year. Wow. She was 14th, 8th, and 12th. So this is a 4-time All-Canadian. Wow, and then since then, she started focusing on the triathlon and was 3rd at the Junior Triathlon World Championships in 2012. So this is an athlete who has a lot of experience. Now she's back on the circuit and looking to be in great form this year for UBC Okanagan. Coached by, of course, the great Melindy Elmore, 2:24 marathoner.
You can see the runners making their way up one of the hills on the course from our spot in the booth here, and you can just capture it in the corner of your screen. It doesn't look like it's separated as we had expected, as we were discussing before the race, Alex. I think we thought that Jessie Lacourse and maybe Catherine Beauchemin would really push the pace early, and we'd see it separate a bit quicker than the men's race, but it looks like everybody's still together.
Well, again, right, we have just as terrible winds as we had about an hour ago, and so it would be a very gutsy move for someone to get out front by themselves like we saw Mitchell Kirby do in the men's race and push the pace as we see our leading pack, as expected, a couple Guelph athletes near the front.
Just as I say that, though, as they turn that corner, it looks like there was a bit of separation starting to happen between that front group of 10 to 12 athletes, and then a second group seems to be forming right behind them of about the same number.
Il semble que c'est encore Jessie Lacourse en avant. Jessie qui est la seule coureuse du plein peloton d'avoir pu courir plus vite que les 9 minutes sur 3 km. Donc 8,59 pour Jessie Lacourse. Quand même un temps et un chrono assez remarquable pour elle. Donc, c'est elle et sa coéquipière Catherine Beauchemin. La course qui court juste à côté de Sadie Jane Hickson. La course running just next to Sadie Jane Hickson, I believe right in the front. And I think that's Kiana Gibson in third. Donc, Hickson, Lacoste et Gibson. 1, 2, 3. Gibson qui avait couru pour l'université de Guelph. Maintenant à l'université de la Colombie-Britannique, UBC. La grande athlète en bleu, voilà Gibson. Et on voit aussi Catherine Beauchemin.
That front group is bigger than I had initially thought, although it is starting to
Oh,
somebody went down there. It
yikes.
Looks like they got up pretty quick though, so back on their feet and hopefully able to keep contact with that front group because they're up there well.
I think that was an athlete from Queens. At least it was a yellow singlet. We saw the shoulder fall, and yeah, what a great recovery.
Yeah.
Very tough mentally to fall right in the middle of a cross-country race, but looks like...
It looks like the pace might be slowing a bit because that second group that had initially splintered off is starting to work its way back up to that lead pack. So it'll be interesting to see when the 4 Laval women that are up there at the front, when they decide that it's go time, and I'm sure that'll be what dictates the rest of this race.
Wow, et quelle dominance de l'Université Laval. 4 athlètes en avant du paquet. Florence Caron et Sarah-Pierre Paquette, maintenant qui accompagnent Beauchemin et la course. Donc, 4 athlètes.
All 7 of their runners are in the top 30 right now.
Wow.
You can see all of them from that front pack.
Et aussi, c'est Jade Bérubé qui court comme la deuxième coureuse de l'Université Laval entre la course et Beauchemin. Donc, la course, Bérubé, Beauchemin. Il y a ensuite Florence Caron, on pense. So, Jessie Lacourse, Jade Bérubé, and Catherine Beauchemin are the top 3 of 4 Laval athletes. And other teams now, in particular Guelph, are probably sweating. And I'm guessing that Hickson hopes that her teammates are very close behind her, because if not, the team title is going to be won barely before the race gets to its halfway point.
Yeah, I think if you're any of the other teams in this field, similar to with McMaster, it's a race for second in the team title. If Laval has a really off day, I think there's the opportunity for another team to win, but it would take a lot for Laval to be moved off the top spot.
Laval, Guelph, UBC. We haven't mentioned the AUS teams very much so far. Not expected to finish in the top 3 or 5, but just to mention that St. FX has a fast-growing program. The Ali Sandluck of not too far from here, of Pictou County, taking the win at the AUS Championship. We're trying to spot her in the crowd. One of 2 sisters, the Sandluck sisters, both racing for St. FX University. They will likely try to sneak into that top 7, which would be a great win for the women's program at that school. Of course, our alma mater, so we have to give them a shout.
It would be interesting to see had Shona Chisholm, who's now racing for Notre Dame in the NCAA Division 1. She was All-Canadian last year here at these championships. If she had stuck around for another year, what this team could have been, because it's a very young team, lots of second and third years, so they'll be back for more next year.
And Chisholm finishing 4th at her NCAA regional championship just recently, and so great to see a former U Sports product blossoming so well as an athlete. Now it looks like at least the rain has subsided a little bit, Angus, so...
Yeah, it's not pouring down the windows as it was earlier, although it's hard to say from in here.
Yeah, it's nice being in here. Yeah. Like we said, we have the easiest job out here. We're nice and dry. And this is really stormy type of weather. You know, you'll get these like 45 seconds of calm and then a big gust of wind and rain. And so as a runner trying to set the tone or lead, it's very hard to try to pace yourself because you're not even sure what the next kilometer is going to look like.
Yeah, especially with the gusting wind heading into that, you can be all up on your own in front, and then next thing you know, you've got 80 kilometers an hour of wind just pushing right back at you. So the unpredictability of the weather makes it equally as difficult as the conditions themselves.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've been around this conference since 2013. Angus, yourself, since 2015. I do not remember a year in which it was this hot.
Yeah, typically at this time of year, similar with the rest of Canada, we've got maybe a bit of snow on the ground, and it's definitely looking at 0 or sub-zero temperatures. So I know some of the Calgary folks and Edmonton as well as I guess the rest of the prairies was looking at minus 30 temperatures earlier this week. So
and running in snow.
Yeah.
We saw some Snapchats and Instagram stories of runners doing workouts in about 9 centimeters of snow, and so, or 9 inches of snow, I mean. And so going from that to this is a weird adjustment.
I'm sure they're happy to be able to see the grass today.
Yeah.
With that being said, it's turning quickly to mud. As you can probably start to make out with the camera, as they come around for their loop, what was a pristine fairway before has now been etched in mud and standing puddles of water. So hopefully we don't see any more athletes go down. There you go, right there. You can up close with the
oof, look
with
at
some
that.
of the conditions that these runners are looking at.
Yeah, very tough. So I was going to venture a guess and say the women would probably run somewhere around 28 minutes, but also you have to factor that the terrain is much slipperier than when the men raced. So not sure what kind of time we're expecting, but I can say that they're approaching the halfway mark of this race. And just from the corner of our eye, I think we can spot maybe a group of...
Yeah, just up the top of the hill there. It's still a very large group, playing out very differently than the last few women's U Sports Championships that we've seen, but should be interesting. The more runners that stick around, the better it is for the spectators.
Yeah, and if I'm Université Laval, I would realize that there's no real point in trying to have one athlete way out there pushing the pace. If you have 4 athletes in a leading pack of 15 to 20, you know that this race is yours. And so I think I see what they're doing here. There's no real point in burying yourself right now. I think they're just comfortably going to sail to the finish line with the win.
I will say, looking at this front pack that is now starting to break up as they round the corner. Oh, that's the second pack. But it is a lot. It's not a lot of Laval singlets up front. They are in that pack still, but that looks like maybe a bit of Guelph up there. Of
I
course,
see.
Obstructed by the trees now, but they're coming around to the end of lap 2.
I'd say that's a train of about 15 or so athletes here. And you can see that they're pouring it on. We have Sadie Jane Hickson leading from the inside, Guelph. Kiana Gibson is not far behind from UBC, the tall figure from UBC wearing blue. And interspersed throughout that pack, we still see those Laval singlets, right? Je pense qu'on voit quatre athlètes de l'Université Laval en rouge et or.
Similar to the men's race, the front pack is a very diverse group of different universities, so it should be interesting to see. In the team scores, we'll have an equally difficult time trying to decipher who won and who was second and third.
Yeah, I would say the women's race has that element of surprise for the winners, right? I think Guelph is more of a challenge to Laval than any team was a challenge to McMaster. Especially now looking, I think I see Nina Whitford of Guelph running alongside her teammate Sadie Jane Hickson. So that's a strong 1-2 on the Guelph side. Of course, Guelph losing a key piece in Hannah Woodhouse, the Student Athlete Community Service Award winner and former U Sports All-Canadian in past years, having to pull out due to injury. So that's a low stick
And
that Guelph loses there.
You're seeing a lot of CanWest up there as well. From Saskatchewan, Jenna McFadden, who's 4th at the CanWest Championships, but maybe she's got the peak just right, and she'll be able to challenge for the lead or maybe the podium here today.
Yeah, and McFadden's teammate, Caitlin Harrison, who was 5th last year, we saw her in the front too for Saskatchewan. Now, the trouble for Saskatchewan is I think you'll have to wait a while until you see the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Although I'm eating my words here because I see a 3rd Saskatchewan athlete running right next to McFadden. So, yeah, keep your eyes out for Saskatchewan.
The Huskies coming out to play in the rain and wind today.
Now, I think in that lead pack, we see it being sandwiched by a few runners from Laval. Je pense que Jessie Lacourse est tout proche de l'avant et Catherine Beauchemin en train de courir en 10e position. Donc, la domination de Laval un peu moins évidente dans cette deuxième partie de la course.
I will say the stranglehold that Laval seemed to have early might be slipping away a bit as they're starting to lose runners out of that front pack.
Yep, and this is when the race starts, right on the men's side. We saw a break a bit earlier, a pack forming behind that break, and then finally 4 runners pulling ahead. And so I think we're going to see some change soon. These women are now seeing and sensing that they're in the second half, now the third of 4 loops this course being torn up more and more by the step.
As we see a few of the runners a little bit further back in the pack here, navigating the puddles of mud and water on the course. We don't have much vantage sight to the back half of the course, but based off the elevation, I can only imagine it's more muddy there.
Yep, very difficult to do on a day like this. I'm glad that we have people on the course at all. As mentioned during the men's race, the last time U Sports came to Atlantic Canada, I was in Newfoundland in 2014, back when it was called the CIS Championship, and the weather was even worse. It was also on a golf course, Hippie Park, just on probably the easternmost golf course in all of North America, just near Signal Hill, exposed to those Atlantic winds, and the entire video crew just fell apart because the winds, I think, hit about 110 kilometers an hour, and it was pure carnage on the course. So at least I don't think it's as bad as in 2014, but if you only go to the East Coast for cross-country championships, you might start and think that the weather's always like this around here.
The locals might start asking us not to have it here with the weather that it seems to be.
Yeah, and despite that, such a nice day yesterday. Yesterday was a summer day. Could have had a cross-country championship yesterday, and it would have felt surreal.
Same thing with tomorrow. Good weather expected as well. So it really is a shame that the runners are having to work through this, but it wouldn't quite feel like a cross-country championship if it was 18 degrees and sunny.
And weather like this creates stories, right? And speaking of stories, I hope Max Turek is doing okay, the men's champion who collapsed right at the end of the race, seconds after winning it, and apparently dislocated his shoulder. So we're sending him messages of a quick recovery, hoping for the best as we wait to see which women pop out of Loop 3 as the leaders.
We're starting to see them work their way back through that middle section of the course where we should get line of sight to them shortly. It will be interesting. The field here is a lot more experienced than the field that we had in the men's race, where a lot of people were not returning all-stars. They had been a bit deeper in the pack in the past, whereas this women's race is loaded with people that have a lot of all-star experience and have been at the front end of a lot of these U Sports races.
Yeah, absolutely. Jessie Lacourse, Catherine Beauchemin, they found themselves on several podiums over the years. Jessie Lacourse, la championne U Sport en 2000. Pardon, la deuxième finissante au championnat U Sport 2022 aux 3000 mètres. Une étudiante en maîtrise en psychopédagogie, orthopédagogie. Et semble encore trouver en masse de temps pour courir. Donc, Jessie Lacourse, I mentioned the master's student at Université Laval, was the runner-up earlier this year at the 2022 U Sports 3,000 meters. Now she's doing a master's in psychopedagogy. So we're going to have to ask her exactly what that entails.
Alex, I think you were selling Joanna Brown a bit short too. She's also an Olympian, so she's a world-class athlete from the UBC Okanagan. I remember seeing a graphic when I believe it was Trevor Hoffbauer that had signed there, that they had 3 Olympians on their cross-country roster, all in different sports. Obviously,
one coach.
Yeah, all of them familiar. Most people watching this stream will be familiar with Trevor Hoffbauer. Unfortunately, not able to make it here due to his team not qualifying. But the UBC Okanagan, they've got a diverse set of athletes there with Olympic potential, world-class athletes, but focusing on running for the time being.
Yeah, so an athlete like that, Joanna Brown, can never be discounted. So she and her teammate, Kiana Gibson of UBC, will look to mix it up with our athletes from Laval and Guelph. Pretty fun rivalry between Laval and Guelph on the women's side, even last year. The title being closely disputed. Laval pulling away and winning. Université Laval, l'an dernier, en 2021, ont eu très grande année. Oh, and let's cut.
Here. So we got 2 leaders now. So it looks like it is Kiana Gibson and Jessie Lacourse from Laval.
I think Kiana Gibson is in third, and so I'm thinking this is Brown. Let's just get an eye on her to make sure, but I believe that's Jessie Lacourse and Joanna Brown, Kiana Gibson running in third. So UBC looking very strong. In the top 3 athletes, they have 2, and Sadie Jane Hickson of Guelph currently running in 4th.
I think that's actually Holly McGilvery there for UBC.
No, it's not. It's Sim. Wow, okay. We got to get back to our notes. UBC has a 1-2 punch, very strong athletes. So these UBC athletes might be huge dark horses here. So that's Glynis Sim. So we have Jessie Lacoste followed closely by Glynis Sim, followed then by former Guelph athlete, now UBC master student, Kiana Gibson in the 1-2-3 spots, and Sadie Jane Hickson running in 4th. Catherine Beauchemin un peu en arrière. Donc Lacoste juste en avant de Glynis Sim de l'Université de la Colombie-Britannique. Et ensuite, on a aussi Kiana Gibson, la coéquipière de Sim, dans les premières, deuxième et troisième positions. Oh, and we just have confirmation here from Blair Morgan. Yeah, absolutely. So Joanna Brown, UBCO. And so we said a 1-2-3 punch. It's more so a 1-2 punch. So Glynis Sim and Kiana Gibson of UBC. And, of course, Joanna Brown will not be scoring with them, also a separate team. So thank you, Blair, for that clarification. But still, 1-2, very impressive for the team from the West Coast.
There's a few of your UBC Okanagan runners there. It's getting really foggy out here, so the vantage point that we used to have as well of the runners as they made their way through the middle part of the course is kind of disappearing from our booth here.
Very difficult. And these BC runners must think, what would happen if they would combine the 2 campuses? The reason I got confused is at UNB, they have a similar setup, right? UNB Fredericton and UNB St. John, and those 2 campuses can compete together in these national championships. However, with British Columbia, they compete with 2 different teams. But I would go and venture a guess and say that if UBC Okanagan and UBC would compete together, they would be very strong contenders for the title this year. However, that's not the case.
You can see the water splashing up from the athletes' shoes as they're stepping on the ground right now. You know that it's not going to be a comfortable feeling if they're wearing socks in particular.
Oh yeah, not at all. This course is now torn up. The advantage the men had of running first on a relatively dry course. That's probably a bit what happened with that athlete from Queens who fell to the ground. It must also be a very slippery course now.
Relative is the key word there because it was pretty soaking wet when the men were on it as well.
True. So now we're reaching that 25-minute mark very soon. I'd say I would predict a 28-minute finish, maybe 29-minute finish. These women are fast, but also this course is tough now.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see who comes out of the fog and is able to claim this championship with the...
Now I'm trying to get an eye on the leaders because I can't say that Glynis Sim was on our radar to take the title here. But here we're seeing that she's a very accomplished track and field athlete. She's been on the track more so than on the cross-country course. She's very fast, right? 2:04 in the 800 meters all the way down to 15:39 in the 5K. And so she's a very accomplished runner here for UBC.
And I think what threw us off was the fact that she was not in the top 5 for her conference championship.
Yeah, so perhaps just peaking at the right time. And as we mentioned, Jessie Lacoste has some track speed that very few athletes have, being the only runner in the field who has broken 9 minutes for 3,000 meters. She has an 8:59, but she might have met her match with Glynis Sim, 4:11 in the 15 as well, and 2:04 speed is very hard to replicate here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it breaks down here at the finish line. It looks, just based off of how the crowd is gathering right now, that the runners are getting close to the finish line now, as a number of spectators have gathered near the turning point. But again, the visibility right now is pretty brutal, so telling anything about what's happening in the race will be difficult. It does look like there's a runner making their way through that section. If it is one of the leaders, based off of the singlet color, I would hazard a guess that it's Jessie Lacourse, but again, really hard to tell if that is even one of the leaders at this point.
It's hard to even make out the runners from the spectators. Everyone is getting excited. The men are running around. The parents are running around. Oh, this is chaos.
The hoods are back up. The rain is really starting to come down now.
This is going to make for an epic finish for whoever's leading.
Yeah, the photos from this will be very Instagrammable.
Yeah, I remember a similar year in terms of rain was Victoria, when people were crossing the line just covered in mud. This is going to be somewhat similar as we get past 27 minutes. Again, we should see someone coming in full speed towards the finish line in the next few minutes.
Might be less than a minute now.
It could be. It could be. It's hard to know the speed these runners are running at. These championships depends on the course, depends on the tactics, on many things. So we've had some winners in the 27 minutes in previous years when the weather was a little bit more clement.
The spectators are now crossing over the finisher's chute, so you know whoever it is that's taken this, whether it be Glynis Sim or Jessie Lacourse, they are getting close now. And it looks like there's a runner coming through.
Yeah.
Not quite captured.
Excellent.
Oh, that's all right. They're heading out for another lap, so we're...
We have our eye on the finish line here. This is Glynis Sim just about to cross. I'm not sure if we've had Lacourse cross.
The defending champion, it looks like.
Absolutely. She takes the win
and
here.
There's Jessie Lacourse there. So, yep, Glynis Sim takes down the defending champ. And now it'll be interesting to watch the team scores here, because it didn't look like Catherine Beauchemin when we last saw her was up with the second pack.
No, and neither was Jade Bérubé. So, quelle surprise! Glynis Sim de l'Université de la Colombie-Britannique remporte l'or, déplaçant la championne en titre Jessie Lacourse qui finit deuxième, qui va se contenter avec la médaille d'argent et attendra pour ses coéquipières Catherine Beauchemin et Jade Bérubé. Right now we're thinking UBC and Université Laval might be the top two contenders for the team title. We have to wait, and let's cue our math
UBC
friends
runner
here.
that's finished here, because there's two of them standing. Oh, it looks like
that's Kiana Gibson.
Yep.
Nina Whitford, we see from University of Guelph. I think Sadie Jane Hickson has crossed. Catherine Beauchemin maintenant, je pense, en 6 ou en 7e position. We have an athlete from Western crossing, a third athlete from Guelph here.
So it looks like Laval might be in for an upset today.
Guelph,
either from Guelph or UBC.
Very strong showing now with Sadie Jane Hickson, Nina Whitford, and Olivia Roussel. I wonder what would have happened had Hannah Woodhouse also been here. That could have been a victory for the Guelph Griffins, which would be a 14th in their history.
And they might still do it even without that extra help here. Trying to see if we can get the live results going so we can hazard a guess at the women's results. So Kiana Gibson was in third place for the UBC Thunderbirds. And we'll wait for the rest of the results to come in, as we missed the shots of them finishing. But Glynis Sim is your gold medalist. Jessie Lacourse comes through for the silver, and Kiana Gibson from UBC with the bronze.
Wow, terrific last few kilometers by Glynis Sim, putting 12 seconds on Jessie Lacourse and 35 seconds on Gibson, her teammate. And so this race ended up being way more scattered than the men's race. Now refresh. Do the math as quickly as you can. Now we see pandemonium at the finish line.
We've got a bit more information now. So Sadie Jane Hickson was in fourth from the Guelph Griffins, and then Nina Whitford, another Guelph Griffin, was in fifth. Catherine Beauchemin from Laval in sixth. Sophie Coots from Western in seventh. Joanna Brown the Olympian in 8th from the UBC Okanagan. Olivia Roussel from Guelph in 9th. So Guelph's got quite a few, 3 in the top 10. Followed by Olivia Cooper from U of A, Marley Beckett from UBC, Jay Brube from Laval, Erica Jordan from Western, and then to round out your All-Canadians,
Sarah Pierre Paquette de l'Université Laval. Yeah, I think this is going to be close, Angus, but yeah, 4 athletes from Laval in that top 14. It's going to be hard to displace, but Guelph, what a
It'll be
great...
interesting to see where Guelph's 5th is, because the 3 runners that they have in the top 10 should give them a chance at beating Guelph, as well as UBC.
Although UBC put 5 runners across the finish line before anybody else, right? With your top 2, Joanna Brown in 8th, and then Kyla Becker and
Joanna
Holly
Brown not a part of UBC, though.
Oh, yeah, I've said that again.
Yeah.
There we go.
So 1, 3...
Then 17,
11,
18.
17, 18. So I think it's pretty safe to say that UBC has taken the team title here.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it'll be close for Laval and Guelph.
We have our math consultant, Lee Waselius, right now. Again, unofficial. We're doing those really roughly and quickly.
It will be close, but...
Saying that Laval might have pulled ahead. Do we have a read on Laval's 5th runner? Because we have Lacourse in 2nd, Beauchemin 6th. And then we have Paquette and Caron 14, 15. And then we're looking for where did Jade Derubé finish? Oh, she was 12th. Yeah, pardon me.
So it'll be very close. It looks like Laval 40 or UBC 45, Laval 46. So it's one person, one place somewhere or the other. The thing that will decide it is, of course, the individual people that do not have teams here. If there's any of those, they do not count as displacers. So it's hard. We're doing rough math, but it'll be difficult to tell until the finals are tabulated. As well as we saw in the men's race with Tyler Dawsey, 7th place finisher, but didn't end up in the results until about 20 minutes later because of a chip malfunction. So it will be interesting to see. But right now, it's looking like UBC is your U Sports 2022 women's champion, followed by Laval and Guelph in 3rd.
After a heartbreak for the UBC men, just missing that podium by a single point.
They might have just won it by a single point the other way. So
yeah.
I'm sure they'll be the men will be happy to celebrate. Although, as we're saying this, the team scores have changed once again, and Laval is now 46 and UBC 47. So these numbers are very unofficial and they're coming in, but hopefully we'll have some final numbers for you shortly.
But I guess safe to say Laval and UBC being the top 2 teams here. Guelph offering up a really good challenge, but ultimately being the 3rd best team on the line today. Donc, il semble que c'est l'Université Laval et l'Université de la Colombie-Britannique en première et deuxième position. On sait seulement pas, on sait juste pas quel qui est quel. Donc, il semble tout de suite que c'est peut-être Laval qui l'aurait pris 46-47, mais nous attendons encore pour les résultats finaux.
So, it'll be Guelph is comfortably in 3rd, Western 4th, UBC Okanagan in 5th, McMaster in 6th, University of Montreal in 7th, Victoria in 8th, St. FX in 9th, and Queens in 10th. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out as the final numbers come rolling in. But right now, as it stands, Laval repeats as women's champions by the slimmest of margins.
What a race that was. What a race. Fights between Laval and UBC for the team and individual titles.
So now the points have changed again. The positions have not. So it's I think as people are finishing, their teams are being counted as individuals if they don't have 5 people across the line, and then as they get 5 people across the line. So Laval now stands at 49 and UBC at 50, Guelph at 92, Western at 103. So safe to say the podium will be made up of Laval, UBC, and Guelph, but in what order is still yet to be determined.
So again, those results we're finding on Race Roster. So check out Race Roster if you want to be right up to date with these changes. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll thank you for watching. Since we don't have results quite yet, we'll invite you to keep refreshing the page as these change in the next few minutes. But on our end, we will sign off. Nous allons vous remercier pour avoir regardé le championnat U-Sport 2022. Nous sommes en direct d'Halifax. Moi, je suis Alex Sears. Je suis accompagné d'Angus Rawling. This was Alex Sear and Angus Rawling. We thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. And to all, a terrific Saturday.